Good morning, good day, friends. I hope you're doing really well. And my name's Tracy Brown. Maybe I haven't introduced myself in a while. And my team and I of non-diet dietitians provide trauma-informed nutrition counseling so that you can feel safer in your own skin and be your own nutrition expert. So I do like to do little surveys every handful of months to see what people are maybe interested in hearing about, learning about, what will help them stay focused and on track with their eating disorder and escaping diet culture, and honestly anything else that tries to oppress you, kind of belief systems, and just to help make food be food, simple again, even when things are complex, make it feel at least manageable. That's our hope, so I know it feels like this video, even before I start it, is going to feel kind of controversial. And it shouldn't, but here we are in this age of everyone has a very strong opinion about food and nutrition, and I don't really have any axes to grind or any agenda to have. I just want to share some really basic stuff around our three main macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fat, and just see where you land on all that. I know there's a lot of confusion, and when people share what works for them or their beliefs or opinions, even if it's got some evidence base, people get worried, upset. They feel like they've got to do what somebody else is doing and get it right and be perfect. And that's a sign of still fear-based beliefs around food and our bodies and lack of trust, essentially. Things are basically fear-based instead of values-based and trial and error-based and trusting that you're going to figure it out. That's our stance, and so many people, when we do nutrition education, at the beginning, it's very gentle, just because most of us we just need a break from all the fear and just need to learn how to eat the food and not make too much of it. I know some of you watching this video, are probably going to come into this wanting, like, tell me exactly what to do and how many grams and how to do it and when to do it and, exact, and how many milligrams, if I want to take more magnesium, how many should I take and what form, and I can't really speak to that in this video, even though I do speak to it a lot in individual sessions. We all talk about the basics of different forms of magnesium or different kinds of carbs and fat, what their roles are, and what makes sense for what they're working on with supportive eating in that moment. And that might change in 6 months or a year. That's the way bodies are. We're not supposed to be this robot that follows some kind of regimen and it works. You're not a machine, and if you just want to put the coin in and get some kind of results, it's not how it works. It's like you gotta do some stuff, see how it works, add more, take away something, do what works and leave the rest, kind of thing. So okay, that's my little disclaimer, is that you might have parts of you that feel like this isn't enough information. You might have parts of you that feel like you're doing great, and that's great, and you might have parts of you that feel like you're doing it wrong, and whatever. I do know that the basics are that there's 3 macronutrients here. It's really hard to get those needs met and the vitamins and minerals that are within those foods if you're just not willing to eat probably 2,000 calories more a day. It's just the reality that it's hard to get nutrition in, a variety of nutrition in, if you don't eat enough calories. So you can do all the macro counting you want and feel like you got your ratios perfect. But if you're under eating, you're still going to feel bad. Your body is going to still be in stress. So, which is why I don't have people worry about these things. We're trying to, right now, eat enough food, have maybe a big enough variety and enough satiation and pleasure in these meals where you naturally start to learn what's working for you. So to that end, let me just really quickly talk about your 3 main macronutrients. So we'll start with carbohydrates. They provide energy, especially to your brain, your immune system. Your body needs them. I know some people say you don't really need carbohydrates. You can get energy from fat, or you can get it from breaking down protein, whatever. But that seems like extra energy expenditure and not a whole lot of satiation and pleasure long term to eat that way and live that way. So it is true that it's the preferred form. It doesn't mean that you're supposed to eat 90% of your energy intake in carbohydrates, but that doesn't also mean that you should eat 0. In fact, the percentages that probably most people eat and feel pretty satiated are between 45 to 65% of your intake is carbohydrate form, and that can be from complex carbs, like your grains, your potatoes, stuff like that, your simpler carbs like your fruit, somewhere in the middle, things like your dairy, some mix of those each meal, and there's some satiation there. Again, provides you energy, both short-term and longer-term energy, your kidneys, your muscles, your nervous system, your brain loves that glucose. These organ systems that need energy now to keep up with things, especially the brain, needs this carbohydrates. We do store a little bit of carbohydrates in our liver and our muscles to get us throughout the day in between our meals, to get us through the night, those kind of things. Helps our digestion. It's a lot harder when you're just eating a more higher fat or higher protein diet. I know maybe some people feel better short term with if they've got some really, got some dysbiosis going on in your gut, and sometimes certain kind of carbohydrates are hard to digest because you've got some kind of inflammatory thing going on. I know some people feel better temporarily. Even if you do that, you don't have to do that long term. Maybe if it's just short term, but long term, it's hard for your gut to actually fully heal without your carbs. You need the substrates to help produce some thyroid hormone. Okay, so don't neglect your carbs, because then you just end up not feeling satiated. Eventually your gut's not going to be as good. Okay. Again, those of you who are joining live here, again, we're talking about macronutrients real quick. Please watch the beginning after this, because you'll miss the point of why I'm doing this video. It's not just to share nutrition information and facts. It's like there's a real purpose to why I'm doing this. So please go back and watch at the beginning. All right, what else can we talk about? We want to also talk about fat, right? So I have notes. Sorry about that. I usually don't have notes, but I didn't want to forget things. So fatty acids are a part of every cell of our body. They help make up the structure and keep us from falling apart. They're necessary for survival. We need fat for growth. We need fat. There's some antioxidant properties actually in certain kinds of fats. They obviously, most people know this, that fat helps absorb vitamins A, D, E, and K. Of course, fat is an energy backup system if we don't eat enough carbs. We need fat for nerve and brain function. We need that electrical conduction to like insulating in our nerve cells. Helps our protein and carb kind of stay a little longer to get the best use of it. Of course, fat is satisfying and delicious. It helps support having satisfaction in our meals. What else can I mention? That's about it. Most people feel the best eating, probably 20 to 35% of their calories in fat, to be honest, in the 2,000 calorie or plus amount of food. If you're eating less than that, you're probably going to have cravings, that kind of thing. So there's that. Fat is important, though. Don't restrict fat. You're probably going to have poorer hormone functioning and just not feel as thriving and energetic and have food be as satisfying. I know when I did low-fat diets, lost periods and lost hair. That's all I got out of that. It didn't help my health whatsoever. So, all right. And then protein. Protein makes up a big percentage of our body mass. And it's part of making all kinds of enzymes, to help with our digestion, our energy production, our thyroid health, involved in making hormones. Again, it's part of the structure of our bodies, whether it's our muscles or organs, every cell in our body. It does help our liver function, so especially the liver do its job of cleansing and detoxifying our body. And we have to eat it every day to kind of do that. We break our bodies down, we build them back up. It's just this back and forth process every day. So that's when we need the protein. Different kinds of proteins, animal proteins, plant proteins. We do absorb a lot more bioavailable wise of our animal proteins, sometimes 80 to 100%. Plant proteins are a little less, more like 40 to 70%. So if you had beans, more of your, versus, let's say if you eggs versus beans, more of that's being absorbed. Doesn't mean that the bean or other plant protein is worthless. It just means less of it gets absorbed, which is why you eat more volume of those foods to get more protein in. So that's how it works. Most of us probably feel the best eating, anywhere from 15 to 20 something, maybe more percent of our diet in protein. But again, those numbers vary greatly. depending on our bodies personally, and the cycle of life we're in and what we're trying to do with our health. But we can't get rid of any of these macronutrients. If you do, you're going to have lack of satiation. You're going to have probably a lot of cravings. You're probably going to have, just some, we need all these things to produce all the enzymes, hormones, substrates to make everything that we need, that our bodies are going to run, our neurotransmitters, all the things to help our mood, to help and just to help support our health. So if you're watching this and that's like pretty boring information, that's because nutrition probably isn't as exciting as we'd like it to be. And we're always kind of looking for the magic, tell me what to do kind of fix and thing. But it's more about, can you eat a variety of food? Can you eat mixed meals? Can you eat to enough fullness and satiation to learn what you need to learn, to start to do have the experiences and experiments under your belt to figure out what works. And if something isn't, you need to investigate if this isn't the right way of eating anymore for you, or maybe just slight tweaks need to happen. So I just want to give you a general overview. Some people ask me for that, and it's probably not super exciting. It's more about eating enough, eating variety, eating in a way that's pleasurable and satiating. Then if you need to go up the chain here and be a little bit more specific in some food changes, you can reach out, because there's lots more things and a nuanced way to learn. But if you're not doing the basics, if you're not eating enough, variety of macronutrients, variety of everything in general, all this other fancy stuff is not going to be as effective. We've got to always think about the foundations. Enough water, enough sleep, enough food, sunshine, play, connection, joy, purpose. If we're not even doing basics, the fancier stuff is just pretty expensive, but it might not actually fill in the big gaps that you need. It's like trying to run your car on 3 wheels. It's like, well, you may or may not get there, or it might be really painful to get there, but you do. It doesn't have to be so hard. So I hope this video was helpful. If you want more nuanced stuff, please reach out to us. Specific functions of different, vitamins, minerals, whatever. I'm happy to do videos on these kind of things. It's just that I want to make sure that if you're not eating enough and having enough permission, a lot of this information is just noise if we're not doing the basics and don't have permission to do the basics. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.